This is Dr. Okukengodi by name, the course lecturer for AEM503. This course is titled Diffusion and Adoption of Innovation. This course talks about or teaches about how information generated from research centers go to the farmers, and this information, we call them innovations because they are new. So we are here to talk about how this information diffuse to the farmers and how they are adopted. I encourage every one of you to show active participation, to get involved actively, so that you will be able to be grounded on how these things take place. I wish you well as we get along in this course. Thank you and remain blessed. You're welcome, students. Good afternoon. We are on to AEM503, which is titled Diffusion and Adoption of Innovation. At the end of this course, students are expected to know the definition of the concept of diffusion, explain the concept of innovation, define diffusion itself, differentiate between diffusion and adoption, enumerate elements of diffusion, and identify the role of these elements in adoption. Unit 1 talks about diffusion, innovation, and adoption. First, introduction. In this unit, students will be provided with the general background information by introducing them to the definition of diffusion, definition of innovation, and definition of adoption. Definition of diffusion. Diffusion is being defined as a process by which innovation is communicated through certain channels over time among the members of a social system. And this could be done through phones, extension agents, or media. Diffusion is actually a special type of communication concerned with the spread of messages that are perceived as new ideas. Definition of innovation. An innovation is an idea, practice, or object perceived as new by an individual or any other unit of adoption. What we are saying here is that anything that is new as perceived by the people is called an innovation. It could be material or non-material. The technologies practiced developed through research are innovations. These innovations may be in the form of new varieties of crops and plants, new varieties of or breeds of animals or fish species, new chemicals and medicines, new technique of doing things, new practices developed by farmers. Categories of innovations or technologies. There are basically two categories of innovations. These are the material-based technology and the knowledge-based technology. In the context of knowledge-based technology, adoption refers to the stage in which a technology is selected for use by an individual or an organization. Innovation refers to the newness of the technology. Diffusion refers to the spread of the technology for general use and application. Integration connotes a sense of acceptance within the social system. What we are saying here is that diffusion, adoption, as we have said, is something new. And when we say it is knowledge-based, it means it is intangible. In other words, it's an idea that is being sold and grasped by the farmer. And of course, when he adopts it, it means he's going to put it into use. Categories of innovation and technology. Here we'll be talking about the material-based technology. And when we use the word material, it means it's a tangible thing. So it involves the development of tangible crops and animals, chemicals, machines, hardwares used for the development process, and so on and so forth. So at least when we develop chemicals is something we can see, machines are things we can see, other hardwares are those things we can see, the crops and animals that are being developed are things we can also see, and so that's why we say they are material-based technologies as far as innovation is concerned. The definition of adoption. According to Rogers 1995, adoption process is a mental process through which an individual passes from hearing about an innovation to final adoption. Adoption is not an instantaneous act but developed over a period of time. What we are saying here is that adoption, after hearing the information or the innovation, yes, the person has to think, and that's why we say it is a mental process. We say it is instant, it's not instantaneous, because when somebody hears it, does not implement it immediately, but he has to think about it and see the advantages that will compare him to. Differentiation between diffusion and adoption. Diffusion is a social process, while adoption is a mental process. We say diffusion is a social process because it's something that hovers around a particular group of people in a community, while adoption is a mental process because it is something that they have to think about using their brains. Number two, diffusion involves more than one person in the community, while adoption is an individual process. Yes, adoption is done by individuals, while diffusion, people come together and have this technology or this innovation reaching them. Diffusion has some social inclination, while adoption impacts on the economy of the persons involved. Unit 2, elements of diffusion. Outrightly, there are four basic elements involved in diffusion or in the process of diffusion, and these elements are innovation, communication channels, time, and social. The roles of elements in adoption of innovation. One, an innovation is an idea. Talking about innovation, an innovation is an idea, practice, or object that is perceived as new or an improvement over the existing one by the individual or members of a social system. And of course, because it is new, that is what makes it an innovation. If the idea seems new, it is an innovation. The innovation may represent a slight modification, a significant departure from the existing idea or practice. An innovation can manifest itself in a material or behavioral form. In the material form, it exists as improved implements, high-yielding and disease-resistant seeds, hardy and fast-growing fish, biofertilizers, and so on and so forth. In the behavioral forms, the innovations manifest themselves as improved cultural practices. Communication channels, which is the number 2 among the roles. A communication channel is the means by which messages get from one individual to another. These means are the mass media, which involves radio, television, newspaper, and others. Interpersonal channels, which is a communication between 2 or more persons. And of course, the group method. The group method involves the extension agent talking to a group of people. And the third, which is time. Talking about time, time is the third role of elements in diffusion, in adoption of innovation. And it is the third, and it is involved in where in diffusion is concerned. The innovation decision process, this involves a mental process of making decision to adopt. What we are saying here is that in where time is concerned, certain stages are involved or certain concepts are involved. And in where time is concerned, we are saying that innovation decision process is very paramount there, because we said innovation, it goes through a particular process. The second there is innovativeness. Innovativeness is the degree to which an individual is relatively earlier in adopting new ideas than other members of a social system. Innovation's rate of adoption. This is the relative speed with which an innovation is adopted by members of a social system. When we talk about rate of adoption, it is measured by length of. The fourth is the social system. And talking about social system, which is the fourth element in adoption of innovation. A social system is defined as a set of interrelated units that are engaged in joint problem solving to accomplish a common goal. The members or units can be individuals, informal groups, organizations, or subsystems. They share common objectives, and this helps to bind them and the system together. Having said all this, we'll come to a conclusion of this particular unit. The spread of an innovation within a system is called diffusion. An adoption is a decision to make a full use of an innovation as the best course of action available. An innovation is essentially a new technology or idea of doing something. There are 4 elements involved in diffusion process, and this affect the level and rate at which an innovation is adopted. The rate of adoption is usually measured by the length of time required for a certain percentage of the members of a social system to adopt an innovation. Here we have some assignments for the students, and it is advised that the students should try as much as possible to make sure that these assignments are attempted, and because they will give you a better insight onto what the course is all about, and of course give you a better grasp of this particular a better grasp of this particular topic and the course in